Hey guys, Jeff here. In today's video, I'm going to explain 7 reasons why I think on-demand hot water tanks or the tankless units suck. All right, so first of all, let's have a quick conversation about how we got to using these things all the time. Back in the old day when I grew up, we had a tank, and it was about a 40-gallon tank. It sat on the ground, it was electric. Because all of our houses were piped with copper, the water that was in all those lines got cold really quick. Okay, so we were always turning on the water and then waiting for the heat to arrive. Now, we solved that problem by switching over to plastic tubing or by putting those little insulation pipes, okay? You know, those little foam little doodles that they sell for the pool? We had something like that designed to go wrapping all your hot water lines. And the idea there was if we insulated it, we could hold the heat. And that worked, okay? So that was an upgrade. We moved on to having PEX and we moved on to getting gas instead of electric. So we got more efficient. We could heat the tank a lot faster. And with the PEX system, we didn't have that bleed out of the heat to the same degree. So we don't have to insulate those pipes anymore. Somewhere along the line, somebody said, hey, what if we made a wall mount unit, kind of like what they have all over Europe, okay? They have gas wall mount units in Europe everywhere because they have a space issue. Almost everywhere in Europe, the places are really small, okay? So there is a requirement in some places, if you have a small house, having something like this out in the garage in the south makes sense. But for most of us, where I live, we have basements. We got lots of room. There's just no need to have this in a basement. And here's why. First of all, as a new homeowner, you're gonna walk in, you're gonna get this thing. This is gonna be provided by the builder, and it's not a purchase. This is a rental. Now that's a problem, because these units are a lot more expensive than a regular tank. And you might say, well, you know, there's benefits to rental, because if it breaks down, the guy that I'm renting it from is gonna come and take care of it for me, right? And that's a logical thought. But here's the thing. How many of you know that this needs regular maintenance? There is no maintenance tag on this machine. There's a pipe here and a pipe here, hose connections. You are supposed to flush this annually by a licensed gas technician who also treats, because this is a heat exchanger inside. It needs service. And if there's no service tag, there's no history of the service, you void the warranty. And if you're the homeowner and you don't pay for that service, you void your own warranty. Gotcha. This is why they're selling them, because it's easy money. Now, while we're talking about money, let's just get right into it. If I buy a tank, I can buy a 50-gallon tank, and it's about 2,000 bucks, okay? If I buy one of these units, it's about 3 to 4, depending on the unit. The fact that this is costing more than the tank, that sucks. The fact that the install is usually 2 to 3 times as much money as a tank, that sucks. By the way, these units should last about 20 years. If you're gonna rent this for 20 years, you're paying $10,000 for a $3,000 unit. That sucks. While we're talking about it, how long they should last, here's the other thing that sucks about these systems. They're complicated, okay? This is not just a tank. We heat the water and the water's under pressure and it gets delivered. This sucker has sensors in it. It has a computer chipboard in it. It has a lot of moving parts that can fail. And if you'll notice here, this particular system was not very small, not low, not medium, but high water volume, which means there's a lot of varieties in these units. And every year they're trying to make them better, because when they first came out on the market, they had all kinds of issues with proximity to the tank. But the reality is that these things will break down. And when they need maintenance, because there's so many units and so many variations over the years as they solved all these problems, they don't stock parts. Every one of these things is made overseas, okay? An OEM makes it for this company and every other company that's out there. They're all coming from overseas, and when you need a part, you can order the part and they can come in 2 to 6, 8 weeks. But in the meantime, you're out of hot water, and that sucks. All right, guys, so welcome to the mechanical room in my new Forever Home series. And I've got my new 50-gallon hot water tank direct vent. Now, here's the deal. I'm never gonna need all 50 gallons. And the physics of a tank are simple. The cold water that comes in is directed right to the very bottom where the heater is, and the hot water sits above it. And they don't mix. Okay, that's physics for you. So it takes whatever time it takes to get rid of all 50 gallons, even if it's all replaced. It only takes 30 minutes for this machine, because it's so efficient, to turn that into hot water again. So I have 50 gallons every 30 minutes. I'm never gonna need it. And because I'm in a basement and I'm in Canada and I've got a forced air furnace right here, nuzzling that up next to it makes perfect sense. I'm not even concerned about the space. Let's just talk about cost. Most people pay $2,000 to $2,500 market rate. The install only took about an hour and a half or so, maybe 2 hours. Bring the gas line over, put in the venting to the outside, all of that. Nice and quick and simple. Don't forget it needs to sit on a 2-inch slab up to code now. And comparing that to a tankless situation, we're looking at $3,000 and change or more for the product. Another $2,000 to $4,000 for install. This is more affordable. The way the system works is I've got cold water coming in, okay? It goes to the bottom. It's heated. hot water's coming out through the top. Now in our building code, we got a new regulator valve here. It blends a little bit of cold with the hot water so that the water that comes out is about 120 degrees and it won't scald you. The 1970s, someone flushed the toilet and burned me in the shower routine, right? So this is the hot water leaving, it goes up, and that 3/4 inch line right up here, the very top, is split. So I got hot water coming into the manifold, and over here I go to the main power, laundry, bathroom sink, bathroom shower, kitchen, and this is all the downstairs and kitchen hot water. But the upstairs bathroom is this 3/4 line here split off and teed over. And I'm here with my buddy Mark from Horizon Plumbing, and we're going to tackle the subject matter about on-demand hot water. And our solution, well, his solution, got to give man credit where it's due, his solution as to how he's going to solve that problem here in this house. Now, Mark and I go back a little bit. We've both been in the trenches, done a lot of service work, and solved a lot of problems over the last dozen years or so. And we've had problems with on-demand heat, all right? And my gas guy's of the same opinion. He hates it because whenever you got to do service, you can't get the part. And then you have no heat at all. And you call this the recirculation pump.
Yep.
Okay? This is really simple. It's small. It allows you to keep a hot water tank, work with the manifold system.
Correct.
And then you've got all the control that you want over how to deliver hot water. Why don't I just let you explain that to the folks at home?
Yeah, sure. So basically what happens is your water is going to come into the tank through the cold line. It's going to enter the tank. The tank's going to heat up all the hot water, and then that water wants to come out. Well, typically in your house, if nothing is operating, then the tank is just going to sit there and it's going to fester and it's going to, boil up, and then eventually it'll shut off. So what we want to do is we want to try to get the water from this tank to basically circulate to the far end of the house and then work its way back so that the water is constantly hot inside the lines. So that's what we do with this guy here. So this is just literally like your little pump or a tiny little fan. So as the house is not calling for any water, this is going to circulate the water through the line, through the piping system. So the water is just going to go, it's going to go all the way to the far end of the house, maybe your master bathroom, your shower, your tub, and it's going to say, I can't turn on, so I'm going to come back. And then the water is literally just going to come back through this pipe. And all we do is we run a pipe from the far end of the house all the way back, and the pump is literally just sucking the water back into the tank. So literally you're just creating this circle effect of hot water traveling through the piping. And this allows us to have instant hot water at the far end of the house for any fixtures in that location and any fixtures that are on the system along the way.
Okay, so this pump doesn't require a whole lot of power, right?
Plug
We're
it in.
just going to share the plug that goes along with this because this is a high efficiency system.
Yep.
It's direct vent.
Yep.
And so this tank can be satisfied on that same plug along with your
You literally
system.
have two small fans.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
all it's doing.
right?
Yeah.
All right.
Neither of them are pulling any amperage. And this guy gets plugged in, and there's two settings. You can turn it on 100%, which means that it's always running. Maybe you have a busy household, maybe you have 5-6 kids, maybe you have a daycare, or you're, a family of two, elderly couple, and you're only cooking between, 8 and 9. Well, then the pump will turn on between 7:30 and 9:30, giving you hot water.
It has smart technology built in, so it identifies your patterns.
It's not perfect.
No.
But if your patterns are consistent, then it will operate consistently.
Okay, well, I have no pattern. so we're just going to leave it on.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. And so in my world, it's a lot more efficient than pouring all that water down the drain.
Right. So
and I don't have to be frustrated waiting for hot water in the middle of the wintertime.
So on-demand boilers and systems definitely have their place, but typically this is a great setup. A hot water tank, it's a storage vessel. You can't go wrong. Those little on-demand boxes that you described on the wall have lots of problems. And in today's world with the low flow sinks, everything's low flow. Oftentimes when you turn on a tap, you're just looking for a little bit of hot water, or you're looking for a lukewarm shower.
Yep.
Those tanks won't even fire. They don't even register that the tank is actually on. And what you're doing is you're sending cold water through the system, and then you're calling a technician saying, my hot water tank's not working.
I remember I was on a job. It was the latest and greatest technology.
Yeah.
Homeowner wanted it in. It was a basement, and it was on the other side of a separation wall from the shower.
Yeah.
And it was so close to the shower, it didn't register the volume.
Yeah.
And so it was just inconsistent. The hot water would come and then disappear again and come back
And then
again.
you get service bill after service bill, and people don't know how to fix it. And
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer that for every household, this is the way to go. For anything under, let's say, 2,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet. If you're getting into bigger systems where you have radiant heat or some type of air furnace that's using hot water, sure, then you can go to a bigger system, stuff like that. But There's way better, way more efficient ways.
Right, so in our house, we have an island, kitchen island above us. And then right behind us, we've got the laundry, and beside that, we've got the other bathroom.
Yeah.
And in the far corner upstairs is where we have the master bedroom, which is where well, let's just face it, the master bathroom, that's where you want the damn hot water to show up when you want it, right?
Yeah, 6 a.m. in the morning, you're groggy, get out of bed, and you just turn on the tap. Or you can have an on-demand, and you can wait. You can go brush your teeth while the water's running. Right. You know, you can, wash your face while the water's running, and then eventually get in the shower.
Talk to me about what's going on here.
So this is just a manifold system. Newer style. Back in the old days, you might have saw the copper tube. Copper tube. With all the nice pipes coming off, and then they would have the valves. So this is called a maniblock. And you get this nice little tool here that's clicked onto here. And you just have your pipes that are close by just come right into this. So this is kind of like a piece of mind, and you just turn it, and your fixture's off. Yeah. Turn it, fixture's off. So right now, we've now literally closed all the hot in the house. I don't know, you're panicked. You're like, oh my God, there's a leak. Yeah. You just came down here and you just did this. Yeah. Problem solved. It's all shut off. Call a plumber. Yeah. Or figure it out yourself. Right. But you've just saved yourself some time. Yeah. And you still get to keep all the cold functioning. Oh, I see. Okay. Right? Yeah. So now you can individually isolate a problem. So if you know that your hot water tap underneath your powder room sink is leaking, well then we can just shut that one off. All of these can stay open, and then you're good to go. Right, because different parts of the world we have different situations, right? Like where we live, we have a shut-off valve. It's underneath the stairs, not easy to get at because it's crawl space, right? Yeah. Some place it's in the basement, and then they've built in a cabinet, and there's furniture and crap and kids in the way. This is very easily accessible, very simple to operate. Like it's not for everybody. But like when you want everything in one place, for convenience, this is it. What is this little tank here for? Expansion tank, so thermal expansion. So when you're doing the recirc system and the hot water is going all the way down and coming back, well, you're creating pressure. Hot water, as it heats up, it expands. Yes. So we got this guy right here, the silver guy. This is a check valve. Okay. So what we don't want is when the system is not calling for water, we don't want the hot to push back in the cold. Got it. Because the hot heats and builds pressure. Yes. Which means that there's pressure building in the tank, and it can physically push the water back into the cold line. Okay. So we put this guy to say, no, you can't do that. You're stuck here. Okay. Problem with doing that is we've now created a closed loop system. Yes. The water has nowhere to expand to. So now you have this. So we put that, and inside there's a balloon, basically, and the balloon will just expand as it needs to, allowing for somewhere for that expansion to go. Okay. Preventing this guy from blowing off. Because this is the protection device. That's right. System. TMP valve, temperature, pressure, relief valve. Gotcha. So this is the protection valve for the hot water tank. If there's too much pressure, that blows up, and then you get water in your basement. Yep. Just like that. Exactly. So in order to avoid that water, you add this bladder here. Yeah. All right. And this is risky. Don't ever do this on an old tank. Because when you just flick it like I did in an old tank, sometimes this guy here won't stop. Oh, you can't close it up again? Because it gets stuck with debris or something like that. I've had that happen. Yeah. and then we're stopping the video to do a whole different thing. All right. We have big plans here down the road for outdoors. Yeah. So we've got the ability to add water lines to outdoors, whether it's to the outdoor kitchen, or if I'm going to do an outdoor shower. Possible water filtration. Right. Something. Yeah. This is where these systems are a beauty, because we get to add on without tying onto an already restricted line. Yes. Right? This is a full block. Right. So by adding a line to the outdoor kitchen, adding a line to the water filtration, adding a line to, the third dog wash station, because you bought too many dogs. Oh my God. It doesn't matter. We're not stealing water from the main lines. Okay. That's where it's beneficial. All right. So I've got a 3/4 inch line. It's teed off right there. And this goes up to my shower. All right. Which is about 7 feet away, okay? And then that line comes down here, and then this tees off to go to his and her sinks, and then this right here, that goes up to the tub. Now this point right here, this is the recirculation line. That goes back to the pump. That little tiny pump on top of my hot water tank. So this hot water's going like this all day long. And so right here, it's still 120 degrees all day, every day. So anytime I open up a faucet, whether it be a sink or a shower or my tub, I have hot water within 1 second. It is ridiculously awesome. Now I promised to deliver one piece of information, which was, when should you use that system?
And I think there's actually two applications. One, if you're in a house with more than 10 people, you might need to have that continuous hot water and never turn off, right? You're gonna have like 4 showers going all morning for at least 2 hours. That's crazy. Now, the other option is this. If you have a really small house and you live in the south, and having this much space dedicated to a tank becomes a real pain in the butt, and you want to move your tank out into the garage, then you could go tankless in that scenario, but you could also just put a tank in the garage. Just saying.